I wanted to share with you about an exciting new project that about 18 months ago, I did actually ask you to pray about on one of these calls. It's now borne fruit, and we'd love to tell you about it and to ask for further prayer. So let me show you this beautiful cover. This is a book that Viva have just published called God's Heart for Children, Practical Theology from Global Perspectives. It's been a 2-year-long project. You can see at the back, it's been published in collaboration with Viva and Langham. Langham is a Christian publisher. It is incredibly diverse in authorship. The book has contributions from 27 authors across 21 countries from 5 different continents. There's a mixture of theological and biblical reflection, practical case studies, and it's a brilliant resource for the global church, particularly for people training for ministry and children's ministry. And so we're really excited to launch it. We've had a couple of launch events over the last few weeks, and it's been really fun to get the noise out there about this new book. Well, as well as a link in the chat, which will show you in a bit where you could get the book if you were interested, I just wanted to play for you a clip from our global launch that happened a couple of weeks ago. At the launch, Bradley Thompson, one of the authors of this book, who has served with World Vision for over 20 years and currently coordinates their capability and ministry team, shared about the chapter he wrote on advocacy for children and how advocacy is informed by a theology of the kingdom of God. And so we're going to just hear that 3-minute clip from Bradley before I share with you a couple of ways that I'd love you to keep praying for this book and its impact. Thank you.
It is a biblical and theological reflection on advocating for the well-being of vulnerable children. It looks at the kingdom of God as a framework to advocate for vulnerable children. It also reflects on issues related to the church and Christian organizations in advocating for children, particularly from an Indian perspective. I thought that answering the why question is important. Why should churches and Christian organizations focus on advocating for vulnerable children? Reflecting on this, I felt that the revelation of Jesus Christ and his proclamation of God's kingdom is an important key to how we must understand and express the theology of transformation in the lives of the most vulnerable children. I think this topic is really timely in today's context. We are all aware that children all over the world are being affected by war, famine, there's displacement happening, and also environmental issues. The church and faith-based organization, I'm sure you'll all agree, must be a voice for the voiceless, especially in terms of advocating for vulnerable children. The church in India and around the world, I believe, has a God-given mandate, not just to address the needs of children in the immediate care, but also to work with governments, to work with other institutions, to push the boundaries so that justice and well-being for children is ensured everywhere. I'd like to talk a little bit about my personal experience in the writing process. 2 things that I'd like to share is, first of all, I thought, it was important to reflect on this, through prayerful study, really. I mean, my experience of working with World Vision International focuses on, implementing, supporting projects for vulnerable children in India and other developing countries. This gave me an opportunity to actually witness and observe how worldviews and culture impact how children are regarded, how they're thought of, how they're included or not, and how their needs are addressed. So these ideas took shape through a process of prayer, a process of study. There's already very good work out there, including the first book, it helped crystallize the idea of thinking about advocacy using a kingdom framework. I think the whole experience, the journey of doing this was personally also transformational. I truly feel blessed to have been able to contribute to this very important work.
Thanks. So that was Bradley Thompson talking about his chapter. There are three things I would just really covet your prayers for about this book. The first is I'd love you to pray for the distribution of it, that it would actually, in practice, in reality, get to the right people who are of influence, people who are going to be the next generation of church leaders, maybe people who wouldn't normally ever pick up a book about children or children's ministry. That's my heart. Secondly, I'd love you to pray for the impact of the book in the months and years to come, so that people could have their eyes open to the issues of children and take action in their churches and communities. And in particular, if I may, a few of my colleagues who work at Langham Publishing are attending the Asia Theological Association conference in September. It's a massive conference. There will be representatives from almost every theological college across Asia there. I'd love you to pray for really good connections so that leaders of theological institutions could catch the vision for this book and for children and God's mission for them, and take up this book as a resource in their institutions. So thank you for praying.